Welcome back to Elevation 44. It's your girl B. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back, family. Today we are diving into all things winter solstice because the winter solstice is coming up on December 21st, and I just want to make sure that you have ample time to really think about what you want to do for the winter solstice, if you want to incorporate some rituals on this day in order to help you along your journey. So let's talk a little bit about what the winter solstice is if you're new to working with the seasons and energies and all of this good stuff. And then let's just talk a little bit about some of the easy things that you can do to capitalize on the energy of this day and going into winter season, okay? So like I said, winter solstice happens on December 21st, officially when the sun moves out of Sagittarius and into the sign of Capricorn. This is also known in pagan traditions as Yule. So if you ever hear the word Yule, it is used interchangeably with the winter solstice, okay? So this day really marks the changing of seasons. It marks the start of the winter season, which is a time where everything just seems to slow down, right? Opposite of the summer solstice, where everything is at full peak and blooming. Everything is dormant during the winter. Everything is at rest. And that is a theme that you're gonna literally hear come up over and over again in the rituals as we describe what the traditions around the winter solstice are. It really is a time of dormancy, rest, release, rebirth, transformation. It's a quiet time. It's very, very quiet compared to all of the, flamboyancy and just high energy of the summer. It is the opposite. It is the lower energy point. But it's still very necessary along the journey to have this period because this is what gears us up for those high peaks again. Now, I will mention really quickly that when I say winter solstice is happening on December 21st, that is for those of us in the northern hemisphere. Now, if you're on the southern side of the world, if you're in the southern hemisphere, you're experiencing your summer solstice on this day. So when we have our summer solstice in June in the northern hemisphere, that's when you're in the southern hemisphere experiencing your winter solstice. So it's always going to be inverted, okay? So for those of us who are in the northern hemisphere, that's who I'm speaking to right now. And for those of you who will be experiencing your winter solstice during June, you can always come back to this video and then use the information then, okay? So this energy with the winter solstice is very much different, like I said, from the summer solstice energy, because summer solstice is when the sun is at its peak energy, when, the energy feels really high and radiant and there's just high vitality, lots of blessings, abundance, just an overflow of things. The sun's energy is very masculine, so it's very externally and outwardly projected, and you feel that during the summertime for sure. And in the winter, it's the reverse. It is dark. It is cold. The energy is lower. It's more feminine in its qualities because this is a time that marks like the shortest daylight in the year. So you're going to have the shortest amount of daylight and the longest amount of darkness. And so that's when the moon is really shining. So the energy is more predominantly moon oriented and therefore is more feminine in nature. It's more receptive, it's more quiet, reflective, and inwardly projected versus the external projection of the sun's energy, okay? So the energies are just completely opposite, but again, you need that balance. Now, the winter solstice, like I said, is celebrated by many cultures around the world, on every different continent. A lot of it tying back to what the ancient civilizations started in terms of their celebration or their symbolic view around the winter solstice. Now, because the winter solstice does mark the time where the sun is at its lowest energy peak, meaning that the daylight hours are its shortest and then the nighttime hours are the longest. The celebrations were a lot about the sun's energy returning and increasing, because from the day after the winter solstice on, the sunlight actually increases each day, and the darkness actually, the dark time of the day actually starts to decrease all the way up until the summer solstice in June. So symbolically, for a lot of, cultures, they saw this as a time where, light overtakes the dark, or good overtakes evil, or the blessings are coming in to eradicate darkness or evil spirits and all of that type of thing. So a lot of these traditions, the celebrations and stuff, come out of that symbolic meaning. Now, like I said before, some of these traditions can be seen, or things that started then can be seen in our, what we call our holiday traditions now. In ancient Rome, they would have a festival called, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, so correct me if I'm wrong, Saturnalia. We're gonna roll with that. And that festival really involved decorating homes with like greenery, with lighting candles, and gift giving. So how does this show up today in our culture? Think about it. The Druids also introduced the mistletoe, and that was used as a symbol of life and blessings in the dark winter times, just to kind of remind folks that there's more coming along, and darkness, this is all a cycle, so the darkness will be replaced with light. And also they started the tradition of the Yule log, which was lit to banish evil spirits and bring in good luck, okay? And then evergreen trees during this time became the symbol of life and blessings and hope and rebirth. And there was a whole tree festival that was born around the whole evergreen trees symbolism, and that became the lighting of the tree, which then has now kind of moved into our own modern culture. In our homes, we have trees that we light with, we get lights and we decorate them and we put them in our home every December. Some of us, I won't say all of us, some of us do that. So that's really where a lot of these things are coming from. So now that we know a little bit more about the winter solstice, its meaning, kind of like where it came from and the symbolism behind it, now you probably want to know, like, how do I work with this individually? What can I do on this day in order to capitalize on the energy? Now, here are some easy rituals that I think that you can incorporate. You may also think of some on your own, and that is totally fine. You do whatever floats your boat, okay? So the first thing that I would suggest in terms of an easy ritual idea is building an indoor altar. Now, if you are comfortable working at an altar, you've been thinking about, building an altar or having an altar, or maybe you were the type of person who worked with an altar, but you mostly did so outside in the elements and nature. This is a time where, for a lot of us, it is a colder time of the year where we can't be out and about as much. So building like an indoor altar where you can do your work would be very beneficial. If you already have an altar, you can revamp your current altar. Maybe purge some of the things that you don't need at your altar, bring in some, new things to support your work during this time. That is definitely what I would recommend. The second thing that I would recommend once you have your altar set up and you're comfortable doing this is an ancestor offering, because so much has been afforded to us in the times of peak and high energy. Just, reflecting on what has actually been afforded to you, the things that have come in, just being really grateful and thankful for that, and maybe offering your ancestors something in return for all of the help and all of the, work that they've been doing behind the scenes to help you. So whatever offerings your ancestors are into, whether it be food, money, liquor, whatever, you can think about, our ancestor money. You can think about, the things that you would like to incorporate in terms of, thanking them. The third thing that I would say, an easy ritual idea during this time is, if you don't do this currently at your altar, is having a meditation space. Creating an indoor meditation space, a place where you can go to reflect, go to have solitude, you know, just that quiet time, and having it indoors because again, for a lot of us, being outdoors during this time is just not a reality. So having a dedicated meditation space and then incorporating some of that warm light into your space or even around your altar with candles, with, you know, if you happen to have like maybe a fireplace that is in a place that is quiet where you can create your little meditation space around it, that would be great, incorporating the whole element of light into there because we're talking about the symbolism between light and dark, okay? So that is another thing that I would say. And you know, when I talk about the fire too, with the fireplace and candles and everything, not only does it bring in light, but it is also representative of fire because fire is very transformative, and this is a transformative process where we are going through a rebirth cycle before, you know, spring, before we come anew again, right? So that is also why I also say, you know, to bring in the element of fire, because that is alchemy and alchemy is transformative. So that helps us there as well. So speaking of fires, let's move outdoors. Even though we've been doing everything indoors, you can move outdoors and create a bonfire. So, you know, that will provide some heat, especially if it's really, really cold. So the warmth of the fire, and the fire can serve, as we talked about fire being, you know, alchemy and transformative, that can serve as a form of release and transforming things, taking it out of its physical form and transforming it into the ethers and releasing things and allowing things to go. So a bonfire release or cleansing of that matter is definitely one that I would add to the list. Then another one I would recommend is a cleanse. If it's not by fire, a physical cleanse, physically cleansing yourself, whether it be you know, a bath, a spiritual bath, or any other form of cleansing that you find helpful to you during this time. And also physically cleansing your space, releasing, decluttering, getting rid of the things that no longer serve you, the things that you don't physically want to bring in with you into the new year, into the new energy as things start to build or increase again. The next ritual I would recommend is preparing like a hearty meal using a lot of the best seasonal vegetables and things that are at your disposal to create like, you know, a feast, and being able to enjoy that with your family and friends or the people that you love, and, you know, just creating that cozy, warm environment of, you know, joy and happiness and surrounding yourself with love, I would definitely say is really easy as well. The next thing I would recommend is doing maybe a tarot spread, working with, you know, tarot cards or oracle cards or just some type of intuitive activity that helps you, you know, get energy insights into what lies ahead, you know, especially as, you know, you have the new year coming and different things coming. Well, the new calendar year coming, but also the new astrological year that starts in March. So what kind of energy is coming in, the things that you need to be focused on, you know, working with your cards, you know, doing a tarot spread during this time just to get some more insight on the energies to see what lies ahead. And also it gives you insight onto what needs to be transformed before those new things are able to really come in. And then the last thing I would recommend ritual wise is maybe doing a quiet walk out into nature, because there is a beauty in every season and every phase of life. Again, winter is just a part of the cycle. I know a lot of people don't care for it as much. It's like, oh, the summer is so much fun and there's so much to do in the summer, but the winter is just as important, and every season is got its place and its role, and it's a part of the cycle, and you need all parts of the cycle in order for the thing to run, you know, beautifully, for the engine to run smoothly. So, you know, taking a quiet walk in nature will help you observe how does nature naturally deal with these seasonal changes. We know how we're dealing with it as human beings, but if we look at the animals and we look at the plant life and we just look around us, like, how does nature respond to these cycles? What does it do? And how can we mimic what nature is doing? Is nature resting, or is nature super active at this time? So we need to be more in tune with that in order to allow our own cues to guide us in the right direction. Okay, now that is it ritual wise. Some of the herbs, if you want to incorporate herbs into your rituals for this winter solstice, the ones that I would recommend working with are peppermint, pine, mistletoe, rosemary, and cinnamon. And then some of the crystals that will be beneficial during the winter solstice are garnet, ruby, moonstone, snow quartz, and black onyx. Okay, so I hope you found this information helpful. I hope you have a wonderful time crafting your rituals for this winter solstice and just really getting into a space of rest and release and reflection, and just, you know, honoring this particular cycle of where we are. Have a good one. Happy winter solstice, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.